1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Hey, George, can you unmute? I have a question for you.
Oh, there we go.
Hey, man, how are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. I don't know if you checked your paper, but I'm in love with your table of contents. I know. Don't tell my wife. Without showing your name, I wanted to show it as an example of some of them were just not there. And
I mean, I got it from your G drive, so I was like, I assumed
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, that's what I sent out tonight in a zip file. So, all right, there's a federal rule that you cannot expose or show anyone else's graded paper. The Federal Education Records Protection Act, FERPA.
Really?
And yeah, I don't want to go to jail for a table of contents. Okay.
Yeah, just blur it all out.
All right. Yeah, Kyle, we're confessing everybody's good things tonight. I had a manager who used to always say, catch people doing what's right, instead of what a lot of managers do. They just look for their state change machines. They just look for something that's different than it should be, and they just pounce on it. So anyway, so we're still short Medi. Hi, Harshita. How are you? Hi, Kyle. How are you?
Doing well, thanks for asking.
Good,
Thanks for
good.
asking. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Everyone's alive after a busy week. I left pretty early as soon as we got out from class, and I drove at a pretty rapid rate. I wanted to get there. I had a book. I was prepared to sit and wait for my appointment, which was late in the day. And they just said, go ahead. And I got there like, I don't know, 45 minutes early. It took me 5 minutes to queue in the line. I was sitting down, they gave me a shot and it was done. So yeah, I'm outside of, I felt like somebody punched me in the arm, just kind of sore around the injection site, but no, no antibodies or any of that kind of stuff, any sickness or anything like that. So yeah,
Medi just strolled in.
Oh,
He's gonna go
good.
set up his laptop and hop on.
Okay, great. Well, I bought some Moderna stock. I bought some more Pfizer stock way back in March or April last year. And, it's as much as this virus is mutating, they're going to sell a new booster shot every 6 months. And as long as they build national governments for this, I mean, it's going to be worse than Google and Facebook. So anyway, so I'm glad everybody is hopefully paying attention to this and taking care of themselves. I'm excited that I'll be able to teach the next term of. I'm teaching the supply chain course, and given the pandemic, the supply chain news is really vital. What do we do? I mean, we got ships that are backed up in Long Beach and in Savannah. The wait is 7 or 8 days, and we've hauled foodstuffs and vaccinations to Africa and South America, and they don't ship stuff in containers back. So we got tons of empties in those two continents, and we got no containers or not enough of them in China. I mean, it's really amazing. I went down to get I got a little Land Rover Discovery Sport. I bought a demo loaner car. If you ever need to buy a car, as we're waiting for Medi to get hooked up, go to a nice dealer whose cars you respect. Ask for the old demos when they're upgrading them for the new model year. So I got a 2018 Discovery Sport that listed for 55. It had 7,000 miles on it, and I got it for 31. A friend of mine who's a private dealer said, people rent cars and they treat them like crap. They drive 150 miles an hour and but the loaner car, they know that they have to sign to it. They know that they're insured, and it's usually a brand new car because they want to convince you to buy the new version. When we have a 11-year-old Porsche Cayenne hybrid, and when we go to get service on it, I mean, it's got like 40,000 miles. It's ridiculous. But when we go to get it serviced, they give us like a 2021 Cayenne or a Panamera that's like 180 grand. I mean, and we're like, honey, we're going to take this home. We're going to lock it in the garage. We're not, until we have to go pick the car up. So the demo loaner service cars are light mileage, and they've been well taken care of, and the warranties start when you buy them. In other words, if you had a 20,000 mile warranty, it started at 8,000 miles. And so it's a really good deal. So, but anyway, so I'm down there getting some service on it, and they have this Range Rover Defender, which is like the coolest SUV you've ever seen. It's got a roof rack that you can put a tent on. It's got a ladder. I mean, it's water canisters on the side, and they could mount a 50 caliber machine gun, and I would be surprised. I mean, it's like your favorite apocalypse vehicle. And so I, just for giggles, I said, so how much is this going to set me back? So, well, it's about 100, maybe 110, but you can't buy it. It's not for sale. And I said, well, why not? He said, we're not going to get another one for at least 6 months. And I said, you're kidding. And yeah, their supply chain is just, they can't get chips. They can't get, so I'm looking forward to teaching that class face to face. And I'll also be teaching, Mehdi, how are you? Also be teaching enterprise architecture. So if you want to take the class again, I'm open to, although this past weekend, I'm sure nobody was interested in upgrading their frequent flyer status. That's for sure. So anyway, thoughts about the paper before we jump in? What was good about the process, if we could find that?
I think how you set it up, how you explain everything and what you're looking for. I think that was excellent. We knew what to prepare for. We knew what to look for, and just going through the case. I think that was a good thing. How you set it up, I see everything what you're looking for.
Yeah.
We knew what to prepare for.
I think.
Going through the case.
I think we got a little echo here. I think the earlier versions of the class, I went along with the surprise versions that each week it was like, oh, we got something new. And it kind of surprised me how few people had read ahead in the syllabus to see that these changes were going to come. It wasn't like we blocked them out or, tried to be that secretive. But anyway, nothing was different this time. And that's good news. Everyone got a B or higher. And so nobody destroyed themselves or, needs counseling now or anything like that. And the better news, if we can find it, is that most of the things that got, grades reduced on are format things that can be very easily fixed. In other words, trying to fix a writing style or severe English language usage at this point in the game is really difficult. I teach technical writing, and I have non-native speakers. I'm fluent in Spanish. I grew up in South America, so I can work with them, pretty well. But it's English is such a strange language. It's a child with many parents. It has Anglo-Saxon and Latin and French and all the Romance languages, so French and Spanish and Italian, and so it doesn't always work regularly, and so the rules of English grammar can be messed up. And so, short of getting people the Grammarly app, which I've done, the free plugin for Google Chrome or for Edge or whatever, is pretty helpful and it's free. So, but short of that, it takes a lot of work to redo the grammar and usage and all that kind of stuff. It's an extensive rewrite process. That's not going to be necessary, moving forward. So, well, let's go ahead and jump in. You're being recorded. Everything you say can be used, can and will be used against you. No, just kidding. All right. So all the week 6 papers got graded. I'm glad that, 4 students is great because it's easier to grade the papers. I got it done in a day. I can't tell you 3 or 4 days of this. It makes, I was a very young and virile man with a full head of hair when I started teaching this course. So it's just, it's not the years, it's the mileage. So anyway, I'll talk about what went well and what needs improvement, which in other words are also known as, I hate to tell you so. And remember, when anyone, my grandmother used to say this, when anyone tells you and they start the discussion, they say, I hate to tell you so, they are lying. They love it. If they really hated it, they would just shut up. You know? So I'm not going to say I hate to tell you so, but I'm going to say I told you so. But what's good about that, and I want you to take this with some encouragement, is that these are eminently fixable kinds of mistakes and errors, and there's no reason why all of you can't get past the finish line on this. The hardest slog of this term is over, and all of you, looks like everyone's alive. You know, Kyle, you look a little pale. You know, maybe get yourself a coffee. But we'll work on that. All right, so we're going to spend some feedback on this, some time on week 6, and then talk about the week 7 assignment. It's a standalone. I'm going to be really clear. The next papers you're writing are standalone, but with the goal that in week 10, you're going to fold them all together into a coherent document that will be part of your portfolio. The idea being it should be something that you can share with your management. It's of a quality good enough to be able to say, wow, the money we're paying for your tuition is a good investment. That was kind of the thinking on that. So, and as you think about that, let me know, because I've always been able to, and been really glad to write an introductory letter with your portfolio attached, and just say, hey, this is what Kyle or George or Mehdi or Harshita did in this class. Even for if you're looking for another job or something like that, I could keep a secret. But you know, you'll have to understand what kind of quality your boss is going to be impressed by, and you have to work to that level of quality. So it's not just your knowledge, but it's the packaging as well, which is kind of a theme for tonight. Most of you displayed all the knowledge required to understand the complexities of this and to walk through the process in a very coherent way. Some of the packaging we just have to work on. So let's go ahead and jump into that. So week 6, most of you read the guidance over the last 4 weeks. Your ability to write was evident. Your ability to leverage the assets was also clear. And everyone got a decent grade. Some got better, but all can improve, right? Nobody got 100. So we can all improve. So here's some suggestions. Table of contents, all of you did. And it's not only a good thing now, it will be a good thing as you fold in week 7 and week 9 and week 10, okay? Last time somebody listed the range of pages, subhead 2 was from page 3 to page, 8 or something like that. You just put the starting number and all of you were fine there. Learn how to use the ellipses, the little 3 dots from the whatever the title is to the page number. There are templates and they're available, and I'll show you those. You got a copy of those in a zip file. And the easiest thing to do is not start from 0, but just type your stuff over something that's existing, change the name, make it yours, and away you go. Once you get your page numbers on an index and they're not aligned right and they're just kind of scraggly, it will take you years, years of your life to fix it. And you're better off just saying, the heck with this. Let me start with a clean template, plot those suckers in, and away you go. Your abstracts were great, and they came first before the table of contents. I think all of you got that right. But remember, on the final submission, you're going to add security, regulatory compliance drivers, data privacy, those sorts of things, especially with the digital transformation project that Archie Assurance is going to do. And then the cloud AI factors come in on week 10. So the abstract will expand. You don't have to write three paragraphs, but individual sentences that deal with the security aspects and et cetera will be good. But the table of contents should be pretty easy to work on. I want to show you what one looks like, and let me see. Can you guys see this? See this page? I asked George for his permission. I can't hide his name in the top right there. Can you guys see this?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, great. This is, George, walk us through what you did for this.
Honestly, like I took yours from the G drive and then I just plugged and play essentially what mine was. Yours had a little bit longer, but I just edited it. But
Okay.
that was it.
This proves the ancient adage that creativity is the art of forgetting your sources. Okay. I mean it. I absolutely mean it. Take it, steal it. All artists in the Renaissance practice copying other masters' paintings. And they did that for like 3 or 4 years. Michelangelo, Galileo, these people, anyone who was skilled in painting, Raphael, Tintoretto, all these people, even Picasso in his early years was just imitating other people's word templates, so to speak. And then they got creative and went on with it. What's nice about this is you can hyperlink digital transformation to page 2. It will change, and this will evolve. Now the question you're going to ask is, okay, where do I put the security paper? Any ideas where you might want to put it in the week 10 thing that you've got to fold all together?
I would probably do it after digital transformation because that's going to be a major part when you're changing things.
Okay, that'll work. You could, I had someone who divided it into 4 pieces, and they had the digital transformation, architecture, business architecture, information system architecture. It was a mess. All right, wherever you put it, don't do that. Don't chunk it up into little bits. It is a coherent whole as you write it. I think, a lot of people bolt security on after the whole thing has been designed and talked about, and it looks like an add-on. So having it around the beginning, as you get into the plan is fine. The fact that you're going to marble security in throughout the ADM might also cause you to think about maybe putting it, see where phase C is and before the conclusion. That might be a good place for it too. There's no right or wrong. As long as your pages are accurate, you can go from there. Cloud and regulatory compliance drivers, those are pretty related to security, especially moving to the cloud presents some security challenges. We'll be talking about those in week 9. But what's great about a table of contents is it allows you to add to stuff without having to start over. And notice all the numbers are, all right aligned, and the other ones are left aligned. So just, keep that in mind. It's wonderful, and I'm not trying to make it hard on you, but let's make it easy so that, because there's a lot to do in this thing. All right, so let's look at some other suggestions. The Togaf Archimate chart use, most of you did. Make sure you use the PowerPoints that were uncoupled from the PDF, so you don't have all the open group logos obscured and things like that. Some of you needed to have a label for each chart, and then use that label. If you're going to use a list of figures, that's kind of a really nice look. You have your table of contents, you have your table of figures right below it. Works the same way, but you don't just say figure 1, you know, page 3. You say, you know, figure 1, Togaf framework master diagram. Figure 2, Archie Assurance merger of, you know, ERP, or, you know, whatever. You know, make sure that you have some kind of identifier that's more than just numeric. We'll actually work on this. The other thing is don't just drop a chart that you know makes sense and should fit there. You have to work your audience, okay? You have to introduce that chart or that graphic or that element, whatever it is. One of the key things is to normalize and rationalize duplicative activities in the merger. And we see on figure 4, parentheses below, how the ERP functionalities have been migrated to a main data center or NOC, you know, whatever it is. And then you show the diagram, and then you close out, you summarize it. This shows that we're going to realize some savings as this function gets owned, you know, by one department for the entire merged entity. So set it up, introduce it, provide the right image, and then you know, summarize it as you leave it in your, you know, behind you, and you move on. Otherwise, it just looked like you dropped a graphic on us. It you know, what's this doing? If your audience have to scratch their head and say, where is this? Look at even the most arcane of scientific papers will have some kind of introduction to it. And the best way to do this is to demonstrate it. So I have you know, that Latin boilerplate that they put in papers called lorem ipsum? Okay, I actually translated it to English. You can find it in English. That way you don't have all the red lines because it's Latin and it doesn't know that. Okay, so here's a, can you guys see what I've got in Word? Okay, here's a paper, and then I'm going to insert a picture, a graphic, and I've left it on the all right, I left it on the desktop, and so here it is, and you see it's wonderful, right? No, it's way too big. Now, some of those Archie diagrams, you can't shrink too much because the fonts, you know, you can't, you know, if you're using one that's already made for you, you can't really change that too much. I mean, you can shrink some of it down, but don't shrink it down to, like, you know, 1.5 point type. I'm a very old man and who can't see. All right, so you don't want to do that. All right, so keep that in mind. But I've got this thing in Word. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is hold my control key down, and I'm going to shrink it to, maybe that size looks good. I'm going to keep my document with a tight margin, actually top and bottom, because if I did it this way, you see how now it's flowing around, and that's a real mess, okay? Especially with type text. So this is the best one, top and bottom. So now, and if I move it down or move it up, okay? And notice I can put it anywhere. You want to center your diagrams. I know some of you were putting them left justified. and you know, some magazines have that style or whatever, but the UCall Turabian style says put them in the center, and then the most difficult thing is to figure out how to do the caption. Okay, so we're going to do that. I'll leave it on the video here. You right click and you right click on a picture and you say insert caption, and you'll notice it's already given you the choice, you know, if you have tables, if you have equations, but I use figures. It's always hard to replace this. So what I do is I just say figure 1. Okay, the Togaf architecture, and it's going to be below this item. And you just click OK. And there it is. Now, it still needs some work. Notice it kept the old one that I don't need. And it's left justified. If the image is centered, you want the caption to be centered as well. Okay. Now let me show you something else. Okay. Millions paid $9.95 to watch this wisdom, but for you guys, I'm adding my secret here. You click on the picture, you click on the caption, then you right click and you say group. Now, wherever you go with this bad boy, the caption's going to go with you. Okay. And I tell you, you don't know how embarrassing it is to have the caption to one of your graphics like 3 pages ago, and you kind of, where'd it go, you know? So that's just a little secret to keep it right where it is. And that's really, and what you want to do is not have too much blank space at the top or too much blank space at the bottom. Best to keep it at a paragraph break. Okay. And because see here, it's fine. I could even take it down. The distance there is not too bad. So you don't want to have it to where the, you know, the caption is on the next page, or, you know, or you only have one line or something like that. That's just not going to work. Okay. So questions about images and captions, because this got some of you messed up. Good. Okay. All right. Just stupid word tricks. I mean, Microsoft Word I have a love-hate, long-term abusive relationship with it. Everyone knows about 10% of this program, and you know, I'm constantly learning new tricks and hacks and things like that. So, all right, so let's go back to where we were. It's one of those things that you really have to go to Word to see it. Oh, speaking of Word, there are evil issues. I believe Bill Gates, you know, he's been accused of all this sort of hanky-panky with secretaries at Microsoft. None of that is important compared to, I mean, it's bad, but compared to what he did with Microsoft Word and the auto indent feature in Word. Okay. Microsoft Word, depending on how much it sees you do it, will automatically indent every new paragraph a half an inch, because Turabian, MLA, a lot of the formats, APA, a bunch of these different styles believe in an indent at the paragraph. Okay, so fair enough. But what happens is, let me show you. It's probably easier to show you than. Let me bring our little Word document back here. Now I'll just delete this guy and this guy too, and say, and here is, I'll zoom in so you can see this. Okay, can you guys see the page here? All right, so I'm going to hit center, and it looks a little bit to the right. Okay. Kind of like Colorado Springs politics, right? Denver's a little bit to the left. Actually, Denver's a little further. Boulder is falling off on the left, People's Republic. And we have what's called Manitou Springs that is, you know, again, that's fallen off the left. And there are places of Colorado Springs that are definitely way off to the right. How do you tell? You click paragraph. And here it says centered. But what you'll find sometimes is this. Okay. And you'll look at it and you'll say, wow, I know that's not centered. It looks a little bit this way. And oh my goodness, all you have to do is hit paragraph and then just put none and it's centered. You might want to, especially for week 10, you might want to go through all your heads and just make sure, okay? I'm told by the people who pay my paycheck that I need to enforce all the rules when it comes to the style guide, okay? This is evil. I mean, it really is. It's freaking evil. And I don't, there's actually, I was teaching in a technical writing class about this. And one of my students says, well, you know, there's a Alt Shift or Control Shift Q that takes that away without messing with the paragraph, because you want the paragraph to be indented, right? And you go here and you say, stop sending or control auto format. I mean, you can change it to where every new paragraph starts at the indent. But what happens is this thing gets, you know, just, I would like one. I mean, they've had 180 versions of the software. You can't say center the headlines, indent the paragraphs. That's really not that hard. And I have a degree from Harvard and Wharton, but you know what? A high schooler could say, hey, Bill, why don't you fix this? Okay. So anyway, any questions about this? I know it seems petty, but I'm a petty person. I just, you know, and you probably had a petty boss somewhere, but seriously, it's part of the discipline. If you've ever written a technical paper for publication, I've had several papers published by IEEE. Man, they sweat that stuff. You know, they have these, you know, technical people who have no life, and they go through the paper, go through the magazine, computer magazine, looking for a typo, and they write it in like they've discovered, you know, cold fusion or something. So anyway, just keep it in mind as one of those things that you need to take care of. Okay, enough said. So cleaning up, let's pull the lens back for week 10. You have to do this, okay? And this is the hard part of this assignment. You figure, oh my goodness, I'm so glad it's over. It's not over, okay? It just barely started, okay? Let me make you really good and depressed here. No, seriously, you got to fix it because this is the core foundation for your paper. So you got to clean it up. And as painful as this seems, the sooner you do it, the easier it will be to add things to it, okay? If you have all these errors, it's like repairing the airplane when you're still flying it, you know, it's just not a safe thing to do. The comments are fresh, you got a template, you know, take an hour and you'll be a lot farther ahead week 10 where you are pressed for time, okay? It's always a short week and papers are due and grades are due, and my masters are, you know, they want me to get paid and I want me to get paid and you guys want your grades. So just, you know, I think I've told you this, the only problems I've had have been situations where people ran out of time. Wasn't that they were too dense to understand it or anything like that. So if you wait till week 10, I will tell you so, okay? and it will, I will not be happy about it. Okay. I hate to tell you so, and I wish I didn't have to tell you so, but I got to tell you, you got to fix it. Okay. Whatever errors are there, you continue them, you start with that grade. Okay. So, you know, say you got an 85 and you didn't fix the, you know, it's not like I don't have a copy of what you didn't fix. So I'll make a quick, I'll do a diff, you know, on the Word doc. I know you, I don't know if you know how to do that, but it's very helpful if people start sending emails that are based on somebody else's document and you have an earlier copy of it and you find out, maybe you work in a place where everyone's honest and ethical, but sometimes, particularly in sales, it can be a challenge. And I'm not trying to say that all salesmen are bad, and just most of them. But anyway, anyway, just I am joking. I was in sales for a while. Okay, so your grade goes south from there. So anything else you pick up is an amalgam, you know, an additive for that. So get back to a clean start and go from there. All of you have, you know, 95 to 100 level grades if the formatting and, you know, and some of the style things are cleaned up. So it's not, you know, it's not that, they're not that difficult to clean up. This is the time where everyone starts whining about why is style so important. And I am merciless at addressing this question. A, I'm the teacher. I have power. This is all the power I have. And B, this is part of my working agreement with the university to help you be better writers. I have a master's degree from Wharton, but I also have a master's in composition from the University of Florida. And I've taught freshman comp in college probably for 10 years. And I teach technical writing. And people say, which is more important, the ideas or the packaging? And you can have the greatest product in the world, but if it's in lousy packaging, it's going to hurt your sales. I know enough about product to do that. And you can have some great ideas when you send an email to your boss, but if you've got typos and unclear sentences, and I mean, it's just advertising that you're not ready for the corner office, as brilliant as you are. And unfortunately, some of us are really good speaking, but maybe our writing style or skill or whatever needs some development. I met with the dean and 15 other people, including folks out in the corporate world, in an advisory committee a couple of weeks ago. And we talked for an hour about what do our graduates need. 90% of the discussion was communication. You know, what tools to use, but more than anything, it was help my employees communicate complex information clearly, coherently, so that the rest of the business can understand it. It's just what we were talking about, enterprise architecture. And I don't think I'm that good of a teacher, but I really care about this. And I know that my own career has been successful, and I've been able to communicate about complex tech to the business side of the aisle in ways that they understand it. And it's, you know, it's, I keep thinking, you know, if either of these sides knew how easy this is to do, I would be looking for a job, you know, but I played at the board level in some places as a CTO and a CIO, and got good marks from pretty high-powered people for just being able to say, okay, this is a problem, we've got to fix it. It relates to some policies. There's some things in the software that we've got to fix. I think it's going to take us a few months, but I will get back at the next quarterly meeting and give you an update on that. And, you know, you you have to be a person of your word, but you got to fix it. And then, it doesn't feel scary when you go to the board meeting. So anyway, all right. Enough of the sermon for tonight. This is what I call a hunter-gatherer paper. It's late Paleolithic for those of you who are archaeologists. Okay. It's when Homo sapien replaced Neanderthal. All right. And we hunted and gathered for food. You hunt for the right pieces of this. You keep them in nice, coherent, sealed buckets. And then at the very end, you put the buckets together in a way that doesn't show the seams. That's it. I mean, it seems easier than it is, but it doesn't get more complex than that. So it means keeping your individual buckets formatted, clean, same. Don't have 6 different typefaces, and don't, all this kind of stuff. Don't do it. Okay. All right. So, all right. Questions? Any questions on the paper so far? Okay. All right. Which is more important, content or format? And the answer is yes. Okay. The argument's like choosing whether to keep your right leg or your left leg. Why not keep them both? Okay, not both and, or not either or, but both and. This matters in your company. It matters in your career. All right, and it's amazing how many tech people, CEO level, they didn't major in code or whatever in college. I mean, there are a few, but a lot of them majored in humanities. They learned how to communicate first. Then they got these great ideas, Jobs, Wozniak, some of the people around Gates, Ballmer, some of these other folks. So it's interesting where they came from. Okay, so here's week 7. Let's just go here and jump into the paper. This was a problem before we started using Togaf 9.2 because people were reading Togaf 9, which didn't have all the security stuff in it. So now that we have that, there have been changes that affect or that talk to other IT standards like ISO 27001, 31000, the Nist, National Institute for Standards and Technology, the Nist Initiative for Cybersecurity Education. So it's not just NIST, it's NICE. So the NIST NICE spec, the NIST Cybersecurity Framework, which unlike a lot of other frameworks has gotten simpler. I mean, there's a lot of deep dives and, silos into it, but you have identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. And so we'll be talking about this, but it's arch assurance and security. Let me go to slideshow from current slide. Okay. Did everybody get a chance to read this little 30, 40 pager? Okay. It's from the open group, but it's in collaboration with another group called SABSA, and we'll find out what SABSA stands for. But that's a warning. When one standards group, and I ran standards groups, so I kind of understand their strengths and weaknesses, but they would make coffee making a standard, they would call it cafe, the constant for amalgamating and functional ecosystem of coffee, cafe, some cutesy stupid acronym. And then they'd have 10 pages on the framework for water distribution within the pot, and take 150 pages to write a standard on making coffee. The one that I worked on for Rev 1.0 was the Storage Management Interface, SMI, which was introduced in 1998 it was 32 pages, 20 sections, 32 pages. It is now 1,850 pages, and no sign of going away. Unfortunately, there's a lot of storage in data centers, and the idea of having interoperable storage is still pretty important. So we're going to find the strengths and weaknesses of standards firms working together, particularly in security. This diagram here is an important one, and where the requirements come from, and then where in the ADM they're being touched. All right. So it's a combination of adding Togaf to information security architecture, and a part of that is risk management, and the risk management that is in the enterprise architecture. So we're adding complex subjects to an already complex ecosystem, and you silly people think it's going to get easier. I'm not cackling, but it's just all right. You'll find that my patience level with this has a pretty short fuse. All right, this is a document that I sent you guys today that is Togaf and SABSA integration. I got it from a website that pointed me back to the open group, and I'm thinking, why didn't they put this where everyone could see it? And since I wanted to know more about this SABSA thing and the SABSA Institute and where it came from, and what do they know about security? If they're going to merge their stuff with Togaf, I kind of want to know. So it's the Sherwood Applied Business Security Architecture. And I know like 3 different people whose last name is Sherwood, but it's none of them who are in IT. But it is part of the Zachman framework, which was one of the military precursors or competitors to Togaf. You can Google Zachman, and they're still out there, but they're kind of an also ran. They were big in the late 80s, early 90s, but Togaf kind of the energy went to Togaf. So anyway, how does enterprise architecture address security? I'll let you read this later on. But they're basically saying you need enterprise security architecture along with all the other stuff from Togaf, a close integration of security architecture, and enterprise architecture gives you this enterprise security architecture. How you do that with Togaf is something to pay attention to. Because if you want to do it and respect Togaf along the way, it's not as simple as, hey, make sure we got, we got IDS and we got, web spam filters and, all that kind of, all the tactical stuff. What are the enterprise level preparations for this? I'm still conflicted. I think all this needs to be thought of, but when it's like, I had two boys and was a single dad for about 10 years. So you take teenage boys and you put them in a car, you put 4 of them in a car, you don't add the IQ as far as intelligent behavior, you divide it by 4. And that's about what you're going to get for intelligent behavior, especially anytime after 6 o'clock in the evening. Okay, those of you who have no children, remember what Professor Bowers said. See these gray hairs or no hairs? Yeah, that's from kids. All right, so when you try to integrate complex matter, like I think the only thing worse than trying to integrate a security framework made by another organization to something like to any enterprise framework, but Togaf in particular, only worse than that is trying to bolt it on when you're all done. That's a bad idea. that we've been doing in IT for centuries, it seems. So I've summarized the document from SABSA to give you some of the important information. This is not in the document that I gave you. Here's what SABSA is. It's a bunch of integrated frameworks, and it's got requirements engineering. They call it attributes profiling, risk, architecture for policies, SOA frameworks, governance, security. Some of this touches on similar areas in Togaf. Some of it is new, and that's where it's a problem, because the Venn diagram is what you got to work with, and you got to figure out where you fit these different things in. Here's SABSA's, advertising. They're in 70 different countries. It's evolved as a standard. A lot of government service architecture is in this. They work with standards bodies like Togaf and COBIT, which is another risk management and insurance IT certification group. They have a 6-view framework with pretty colors, very inclusive rainbow colors here. And, the business view, the architect's view, the designer's view, the constructor, the technician, and the manager's view. I tell you, it's slicing it pretty strange when you talk about constructor and technician, because a lot of them are putting the same equipment in. You can construct a network and you can be the technician who has to route and manage the routing on it. There's not a whole lot of difference there, but anyway, I'm revealing a bias that I probably shouldn't say. Why does Togaf need an update on security architecture? The open group, here's a quote. Chapter 21 of the ADM for version 9 of Togaf finally got around to security in the ADM. I mean, it was almost an afterthought at like page 8,000, or no, I think it was like page 300 or 400 or whatever, but it confirmed the worst behaviors of the tech industry, that we always bolt on security when all the really important work. We will sacrifice anything for connectivity. As long as the thing works and the email gets there, I don't care how many people are taken hostage, how many people die. I got connectivity, yay, it works. No, it's got to be engineered for security first, and that rarely happens. It really does. So anyway, so they admitted as much, and instead of modifying the Togaf framework at an organic level, they reached out to several organizations that did security frameworks, and they said, why not, instead of reinventing the wheel, let's merge our efforts and see if we can make something out of this. And sometimes that's a good idea, and sometimes it's not. And I won't make my thoughts clear on this, but doing what Arch Assurance has to do in terms of security will not be easy. Okay. And when we add privacy killers like ProWare, cloud regulatory compliance requirements like data sovereignty and privacy and GDPR and all these other things, it's going to be, whoever we say, I think I said this earlier, whoever we saved as far as jobs, we were able to let people go in the ERP management. We have more than replaced them with more expensive people to manage the data privacy and the regulatory and the company regs and different nations and all this stuff. So saving money, sometimes doesn't happen. All right, so this is a diagram of our favorite little Togaf. I call it Big Ben. It looks like a clock. But over that is a SABSA template that says strategy and planning go toward the beginning in the preliminary in the architecture. The design phase is right around the ADM. The implementation is right around the migration and implementation governance. And then you do manage and measure, which is kind of, keep track of things. So that's pretty coherent, and it matches to the activities. But they talk about architecture building blocks in the Togaf environment, and they have these security subservices in SABSA, things like identity access management, continuity, it's disaster recovery, et cetera, security intelligence, forensics, audit, monitoring, compliance, training and awareness, et cetera. All those have to be added into this. And when you write your security paper, I'm not going to check for which ones you forgot, because there's 8,000 of them to remember. But if you summarize, this is what they have to do. Okay. There's no Togaf security framework. They're borrowing from SABSA. So that's important to keep in mind. So here is a very important diagram. And what's nice is for all the areas of the ADM, you have details on this. Look at all the preliminary stuff, from business drivers, security principles, and this is like we're, as far as we have a zero trust environment. We have perimeter, but we have, host to host security inside our data center, inside our cloud environment, et cetera. So those sorts of things. We encrypt everything on the fly, not just stuff as it leaves. Those are our overall principles. Then, you've got the stakeholders in part A, and you run around the Togaf loop and you see all the things you are dealing with. It is a lot. Most of the security people I know can talk tactical. Okay, we need perimeter, we need this, we need a honeypot, we need a DMZ, we need, boom, 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 boom. And they grow in their list of products. And the average Fortune 50, the average Fortune 500 company, I got this from Fortinet, who's a security vendor, but I trust them. The average Fortune 500 company has 42 separate security providers. What a mess. All right. And anyone who claims to be able to do everything, they're lying. So how do you keep track of all this? I don't have the answers here, but I know it takes really smart people to really think hard about this. And if you want to touch all the bases, okay, the World Series starts tonight, so I'll use a baseball analogy, all right? There's a hell of a lot of bases here. I mean, just in the security part of it, right? I'm not trying to get you to describe them all, but I want you to think about any framework that says, oh, you only need four or five major things. And at a certain level, maybe you can subdivide those into, all right, here's the business architecture, and here's the information systems, here's the technology, and here are the security parts that play there, right? And that makes sense at a high technical level, but you got to get in the weeds. Your security architects are your systems architects at that level, and they're working at that level. So, all right, if you look at requirements, at management, the central one that none of us pay attention to, this is huge in SABSA, because these are the founding principles, so to speak, that control everything we do. We always encrypt. We always, we have a stateless or a zero trust environment, or whatever it is that we do in terms of backup and recovery. Our RPO is going to be less than 2 hours. Our RTO is going to be, objective is going to be this. And we keep all of we go disk to disk, and then we go disk to tape, tape to archive. And we got air gaps between our tapes. And people discovered that, ransomware can be defeated if if you just unplug the tape drive, just take it off the network, or take the tape and shove it in a box. All right. It's amazing how stupid tape, which is 40 years old, is still got use. All right. They always, the old was it the Monty Python, I'm not dead yet. Yeah, this is tape. It's they always, every year Gartner does some prognosticator. Oh, tape is dead. It's all disk. It's all SSD. It's all, and then here comes ransomware, and all of a sudden it's alive. All right. Anyway, so in this Togaf and SABSA integration document, there are, I don't know, 10 or 12 pages that go right around the loop for the Togaf environment. So here's business architecture. And the next page will be information systems architecture. And you see all the stuff that is being worked on. I tried to highlight this, and but all these guys, can't do it. All right, I'm not going to draw. All the text on your right is all the areas in the business architecture that speak to the security aspects of this. It's not your job to articulate them all, but it's like going through a car wash. You get the wheels clean, you get the glass clean, you get the air dry, you get the wax thing, and you goop, and you whatever. And if you pay $150, you get the, whatever. And so you're going through a security car wash, and you're getting these different things applied along the way. So that's chapter 2. Chapter 3 is what they call enterprise security architecture. And this is the merger of Togaf and SABSA. Okay. This is SABSA. They bring in business and cyber risk areas. And this is their pretty chart. So it's business risk management and then cyber risk. And that's the systems and the connectors and the cabling and the infrastructure and the actual things. And then if those are hacked or destroyed or down, what risks does that present to Arch Insurance? Oh, we can't sell. Tell you what, if insurance processing goes down, we can't sell policies and we can't pay claims. How long can we be down without people screaming, without getting murdered in social media? All right, and without getting called by the state or the federal or the international auditors, and China without going to jail. All right, so these are things that we need to be really, pay attentive to. It's a lousy diagram, but it's the only one I could find from SABSA. All right, they introduce enterprise risk management. What are the key risk areas? They call it a BIA. I've just finished this book on enterprise, on critical infrastructure. And whenever you do a risk analysis, the first thing you do is a BIA, a business impact analysis. If you take the business continuity class that I teach, you have more wonderful experiences on all these things. Actually, it's a little bit more coherent, but how to do a risk assessment. You put all these things in a big bucket called a risk register, and then you don't sleep anymore at night. I mean, because you just think of all the ways you could get blown up, or whatever. And then risk appetite is one of those sexy terms, but it's just, what is our, if you're a federally regulated industry like insurance, the appetite for risk among the regulators is very low. All right, it's not like a bunch of quants on Wall Street. Okay, so, and then you can't eliminate risk, but you try to mitigate it. And what is your mitigation plan? So this is just good risk management. Nist has some really good stuff in there, in National Institutes of Science and Technology on risk frameworks and risk analysis and risk management plans and stuff that you can template and use in your own organization. The amount of companies that have a working and practiced plan that they've actually, practiced on and things like that is stunning. It's like under 30%. So that's why there's so much bad news about people getting hacked. Practice it. I almost fired a guy who would not do a bare metal restore. We had a big ERP system, and I said, so how's our 16 different departments needed this, and we had taken 16 different sequels and put it in one. Okay, the only thing worse than 16 targets is one big one that kills everybody. All right, so risk was a big deal for me. I was a CIO of a small group, and I said, what, well, the tape's here. Have you done a restore? Oh, it's good. I could see it right there. It shows it. Have you tried to restore it? And this took like 3 weeks. Okay, yeah, I was able to get the data back. Here it is. Okay. Now, have you done a bare metal? What's that? The system, the computer blew up. It melted. Somebody yanked the drive out. They poured water on it. Instead of halon, they used water fire extinguishing systems in the data center. I've been in one of those. You only find out until somebody checks or you have a fire. And then you have not only the fire put out, which was done within minutes, but all the equipment took a bath. And that might be good for your dog, but for a lot of metal components, they'll short it out. So I said, a bare metal restore is where you have a backup chassis and you load a brand new operating system, if it's Linux, if it's Windows, whatever your Unix, whatever you're running, you load the tape software, you hook the tape drive, SCSI, whatever the interface is, fiber channel, and you take that data and you build, first of all, you install the database software. You got a copy of that, right? Yeah. Where? Oh, I don't know, in your desk somewhere. Well, is it the latest? So you're gonna have to do all the patches and all that kind of stuff, along with your patches for Windows or Linux or whatever it is. Oh, maybe you have a clone. Maybe you have a virtual copy that you may. Okay, fine. That's great. Good for you, smarts. Hook that up and but you got to do all that, then dump your data in. Then I want to do a SQL query on it. Oh, you don't have to. No, I want to. When the boss says something, you don't argue with the boss. That's why he may be a dumbass like me, but I know when somebody has not practiced this. And the reason that people practice shooting and climbing into holes and crawling through water and ponds and dangerous stuff and rappelling off of helicopters in the military is someday they're going to be people shooting back. And adrenaline is absolutely crazy. And you're thinking about living, not, is my M16 or my, A4, whatever it is, going to jam. And when adrenaline kicks in, you get really stupid. And unless you practice those things, you're never going to be able to remember all the things you have to do in the event of an emergency. And it will be precisely the most important time that you need to remember them. So this is not, and this is corporate America. Oh yeah, we did our emergency preparedness plan in 2012. It was good then. Have you looked at it? Have you even done a tabletop exercise? Have you done, have you done a department? Have you socialized it among your key people? A bunch of companies disappeared on 9/11. They had backup plans, but when the towers fell, the people who knew how to restore them, they were all dead. That's why one of the first moves after 9/11 was to say, okay, you federally regulated banks, SECs, whatever, you got to have a data center at least 300 miles away from your corporate. That way, unless it's, I mean, if both of those are destroyed, then it's the zombie apocalypse, or, you know, it's the end of the world and nobody cares. But if New York is in trouble, you know, there's a lot of data centers sitting now in Pennsylvania and West Virginia and DC. You could drive all over Southern Virginia and you'll see like concertina wire and something looks like a data center. And there's no sign, but there's armed people. If you pull up to one like I did mistakenly, they will point at you. So you know that somebody's data. So anyway, I won't go into that anymore. All right, so concerns for the Arch Assurance Risk Architect: protection of assets, risk assessment, access control, audit, and availability. You want an outline for security? This is it. These are the things that the risk architect, and you know, we have a risk architect in our group, don't we? We just did. We just added him yesterday. All right. These are the things that she or he needs to keep in mind. All right. Togaf says, look, you got to put security through the business, data, application, and technology architecture. And that's good. It's what they call a crosscut. And this is a diagram from one of their things here. SAPSA gives you a sense of managing new requirements. Togaf does not provide a required technique for describing, documenting requirements. They go in that center circle, but how you make them and how you develop them, that's from SAPSA. All right. So this is some stuff that you don't really need to know, but just understand where they come from. So here is an article, and I dare you to read it. Here's the link. ISACA is a risk management framework group. They certify IT audits. Believe it or not, there's a lot of theft and fraud. I think I talked to you guys about this in IT. The CIO will create a dummy company, and all of a sudden the organization gets these internet bills, internet wavelength broadband management service for our S3 or our T3s or, you know, whatever. And it's all gibberish, but there's a $1,800 a month bill that the CIO approves, the CTO pays, it goes to a PO box that is conveniently managed by the CIO. This is the easiest scam in the world, and it's also one of the easier ones to sniff out. There's so much phony stuff, you know, fuzzy inventory and fuzzy, you know. Anyway, this is the relationship of SAPSA, COBIT, and Togaf. Why have one framework when you can have three? You know, this is really getting cool, isn't it? All right. There is, first of all, there is no, like, you know, Lord of the Rings, one ring to rule them all. There is no one framework to rule them all. Okay. It looks like, well, Stanley McChrystal, who was the chief commander of Allied forces in Afghanistan, had a slide, a PowerPoint slide that was how to win in Afghanistan. And it's been labeled the busiest slide in existence. Yeah, if you've ever seen it, you know what I'm talking about. I'm teaching some technical writing students how not to do PowerPoint, and I pulled that one out. There's another one on federal contracting that's equally as turgid, but there is no one framework. And so you take SAPSA, you take something that deals with risk like COBIT, and then you put Togaf, you add these things together, and then you can start saying you're getting more comprehensive. I don't know if it's ever going to get easier because you're adding more bits and more topics, etc. So anyway, just here's IDs on SAPSA and COBIT and Togaf. Here's the, you know, pardon me for being sarcastic, but by using SAPSA, COBIT, and Togaf together, a security architecture can be defined that is aligned with business and addresses all the stakeholder requirements. I feel like saying, will you sign that right here? After the architecture and the goals are defined, all right, the Togaf framework can be used to create the projects from steps and monitor the implementation. So SABSA and COBIT, each of whom have frameworks, each of whom sell certification and training. You wonder if their business motivation is to sell certifications or to actually solve the problem, because the certifications and the standards group continue to multiply. And this is not good. So here's the 3-in-1 thesis: SABSA, COBIT, and Togaf together. I did a quick and dirty summary, and all of them have their own little diagrams. Okay, you'd think, can we all just get along? Can we use circles? Can we use boxes? Anyway, so this is just this. But by using them all, you define it and align it, and an agile approach to enterprise security arises. These are all the things you have to do. All right. And believe it or not, on the next page, the following words appear. It's that simple. After all risk is identified and assessed, then the enterprise can start designing architecture components such as policies, user awareness, network applications, and servers. And so they melded everything from COBIT, Togaf, and SABSA into this enterprise security architecture model. Then they consulted the CMMI Institute, which is another framework group, about maturity levels: initial, managed, defined, quantitatively managed, optimized. So now we're in the 4th dimension. Okay, are we having fun yet? Will we ever get this done? I mean, this is guaranteed employment for life. If you're a government entity trying to institute this, you'll be dead before you get, a quarter of the way through it. So anyway, here's the conclusion. Enterprise security architecture in any enterprise must be defined based on risk. And that's fairly true. Enterprise frameworks like SABSA, COBIT, and Togaf, i.e. the 3 companies that wrote this article, and there are other pretenders or wannabes or even better thans out there. So it's not like there's any consensus around this. All right, so if I'm trying to make you feel hopeless right now, it's exactly what I want you to feel in light of all these variables. All right, so here's a blog on this article, which was in InfoWorld. Anyone who wants to deliver the security architecture needs to follow the body of knowledge and good practices that show good results nowadays, adapting frameworks to their needs, maybe blending where it needed it. It's not a one-size-fits-all and never will be. Companies are incredibly distinct and complex, so the architecture frameworks must be a track and not a rail. In other words, it's a direction, but it doesn't keep you, limited to how you can modify. I thought that was one of the best comments on this. To that end, just to mess with everybody, Togaf is not the only way. I mentioned this before. Now you have the link. Here are 5 companies that won the 2021 Enterprise Architecture Awards from InfoWorld. These are pretty serious awards. I've seen the application for this. I mean, it's not just like, okay, you buy some ads in our magazine and we'll nominate you. And I mean, there's some of that hanky-panky going on, but not InfoWorld, not the IDG like the Computer World or CIO. There's pretty good integrity there. So anyway, you can read about them. And Country Financial, which is an insurance company, Bank of America, Deutsche Telekom, these are global companies. And I know you don't have time to read anything right now, but I want you, and I know you're not going to read this, but I want you to think when somebody says, is Togaf the only deal in town? I want you, and this is what we're going to do the next time we teach this. We're going to say, you know what? There are companies that are doing just fine, thank you. And they don't have all these frameworks and, you know, the migrations and the state changes in these frameworks, they don't reflect where we're going. Togaf didn't have a word about the cloud until just last year. And, you know, cloud's been around for a little while, you know, and is this a standard or is this somebody catching up? I mean, it's you know, worth thinking about. So anyway, just for your information, here's the paper in deliverable format. How should Arch Assurance address security within each layer of its enterprise architecture? Within each layer of its enterprise architecture. All right, there it is. Okay, get the article and just look at it, and it'll be really easy. It'll write itself. Just put a footnote there and you're done. Okay, I don't want this to be, it's painful enough. Make sure you reference the upgrades in the security and risk management article in Togaf 9. 750 to 1,000 words. Don't, I mean, you could go maybe 1,200, 1,300. Don't make it long, because you're creating a very big thing to have to manage. Keep it brief. I will respect you in the morning for it. Okay. Use the UCall format and style. In other words, the template that we gave you. It's a standalone paper, but remember, its ultimate purpose is to be melded back into the document. So here's the 4 areas: security, the architectural, and the business, and the information systems, and the technology. It will write itself. Okay. Here's the rubric. Comment on the developments. How do they address these? And are they enough? Well, maybe not. You know, the Togaf people needed help. You know, they went to SAPSA. If it was that good, they wouldn't have had to go there. So no, they don't deal with risk, you know, as well as they need to. I think that's obvious. Okay. But I mean, it is pretty comprehensive. I don't think there's anything else you could think of to put in there. Maybe that's in the back or something. All right, questions. I've blabbered here for almost an hour and a half. Questions on this? I tried to give you the tools so that you don't have to spend days researching this, because you don't have days. You've done the hardest one, and so hopefully you have a sense of how this works. And remember, you don't need to tell us all about Togaf, because once it gets into the paper, assume that we've all read your week 6 paper. Okay. So you're saying that the integration of Arch Assurance's, you know, technology architecture is dealt with in, you know, in section D of Togaf. Let's look at the security implications. In 9.2, the document on security risk, and in the SAPSA add-on, we find the following areas are addressed. If these and the other categories are met, we're hunky-dory. Okay, we're prudent in what we're doing. And here they are. Next, you know, and then we go to the next chapter, and you know, we go through the ADM in small paragraphs rather than large ones with diagrams. And I would venture to say that the slide deck that I have right here probably give you some good ideas on what you can use in your paper. What a coincidence. All right. Questions. I've talked you to death here, but anything? You guys look wiped out. He's still wiped out from last week. All right, so get some sleep. I'll put the video together. I'll send this this document. If for some reason you're screwed up and you've screwed up your template, ping me. I'll send you another one. But the first thing you do with a template is you save it as something else. Okay, and then Then you mess that up and you got something to start with. This is a guy who knows backup and recovery. Okay. So anyway, just keep that in mind. All right. That's all I got for tonight. I'm going to go catch the last 3 innings of the World Series. Okay. I hope you can too, if you're into baseball. All right. We're good. Okay.
Good.
Thanks, guys. Good job on the papers. Like I said, the cleanup on some of these is it may not be easy or simple, but it's something that you all could do. And once you get that clean paper, then it's pretty easy to just keep knocking them out. And the merger on week 10, you will thank me. You will try to send me cash, even after I give you the grade, for the love that I've shown and the hairlines that some of you still have, unlike yours truly, when we're all done with this. All right, that's it. We'll see you guys later on. Have a great week. Talk to me if you have any questions about your paper. We'll set up a time, we'll walk through it. Just let me know on that, okay? All right, that's it. Talk to you later. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, Busby.
See ya.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye now.